Welcome in the ring. A very good evening to each and every one of you. And we are privileged to have you guys in the ring tonight. And as you know, as we come on, we want to invite you guys to share the live stream and let's get the show on the road, folks. Share the live stream and let's get started. Quite a bit of information to discuss with you folks this evening. And I am very eager to get started. Quite a bit of information to share. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Good to have all of you here with us. Hope you had a good day at work. Those of you who are joining us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, some of you guys still at work. Hope you guys had a great day. And we are ready to go, folks. Ready to go. Ready like Freddy. Ready like Freddy. Good to see all of you guys joining the live stream. And again, welcome, 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 welcome. Hope all is well at your end. We're ready to get started, folks, and we see that so many of you are joining us. So many of you are already sharing the live feed. And what else could we ask for? We have such good folks who join us each and every night. So privileged and happy. We're doing what we got to do on this side, ensuring that we share the live stream as well, so that all and sundry, as Christopher Jones would say, can have credible and accurate information. All and sundry, folks. That's what we want to have. All and sundry must have valid and credible information. I'm going to give you folks a shout out just in a little bit. Good to have all of you with us. I'm sharing at my end. I'm ensuring that I share the live stream too, so that we are locked, loaded, and ready to go. Privileged to have all of you guys here. Lynette Goodman, Diane Fordyce, Claire. Is it Capel, Laura Williams, Paul Henry, Norma Jones, Mark Allman. Good to have all of you guys. And I'm hasting to share, hasting to share, folks. Hasting to share. Good to have all of you. I am hoping my audio is better. I had to give up perhaps some video quality to ensure that my audio is where I want it to be. All right, let that go. I'm hasting to share, guys. Hasting to share. Hasting to share. Love having you guys with me. And I'm locked and loaded. When it's not the computer running a little bit slow, it's the phone. I don't know. All right, I'm almost ready. I'm almost where I think I need to be. Almost, guys. Almost. Almost. Sometimes you have to go wherever the wind blows. That's how it is. Sometimes, wherever the wind blows, you gotta just go. uh, take what you get and wait for what you want. That's how it is sometimes, folks. Wherever the wind blows. Good to have all of you guys. Give the live stream a share. I'm ensuring that we are locked and loaded. I'm happy that we have Simone Kelman with us and um, Mina, oh my, the thing went back so far, went by so fast. Thanks for joining us, Mina and Michael and Ewan, Mina Bisu. And I see the name now, Mina Bisu. Thanks for joining us, guys. Tell me if you hear this where you are. I'm gonna play something for you, and you guys tell me if you hear it. Give me a second to play that for you. Give me 1 second to play that. All right. Apologies there. Apologies there. My apologies there. I wasn't quite started. I wasn't quite ready. Good to have all of you guys with us this evening. Really great to have all of you guys with us. I'm just ensuring that we are ready to go at my end. I don't know what I was going to do. Oh, yes. Now that yeah. All right. We are just about ready. Just about ready, folks. All right. So, tell me, yeah. Good. So, tell me if you hear this. I'm interested to know. You guys are ready? If you hear this, where you are. Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that? You got to tell me if you heard it. Did you guys hear that? I played a little sound effects there. Did you guys? What did you hear? Let me know. I just want to make sure that you guys are receiving me as you say you are, loud and clear. Let me know what you heard. I just want to ensure that you are receiving me well. All right. Let me know that you're receiving us as I want to be received. All right. Did we have that? All right. Some people said that they're hearing low. I don't know. All right. People say no, they didn't hear it. All right, folks. I want to move along. Let's get ready to go. I'm ready to go. All right. So let me make sure that we are set at the other end. Great. All right. Pleasure to have so many of you with us this evening. Let me make sure. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much ready here, guys. Guys, let's get going. Let's get cracking. Let's get cracking. And in our hot topics this evening, we got quite a few things to discuss. Quite a few things to discuss. And I want to start with the Linden Hospital Corporation because, of course, we are still following all that has transpired with that Lood CEO, Mr. Rudy Small's actions. Several contracts that have been attached to the hospital for a number of years were severed just yesterday. And we're going to have Linden's very own, Region 10's very own, Deron Adams with us a little later on in the evening, giving some greater context to these contracts that were severed and giving us an update as to what is happening with the nurses and their plight to have the CEO, again, Mr. Rudy Small, removed from the head of the institution there. So, again, we are following this, and um, you guys are going to hear some more from Deron Adams, the chairman of Region 10. He's going to be with us during the course of the evening. And I am seeing that some of you guys have been heard what I played. Let's get ready to rumble. Yes, we're ready to rumble with this fraudulent administration. So we're happy that you guys are picking us up where that is concerned. And guys, perhaps the whole program we could dedicate to Guyana is not a real place, the whole program perhaps, because it's so much madness and foolishness that happens on a daily basis, and we keep bringing it all to you guys. This is what we saw yesterday. We didn't have a chance to share it yesterday, but we hope that you guys can still get some value from it now. Guys Suko, you remember all the promises by this fraudulent catfish administration to bring back and resuscitate the white elephant that is Guy Suko? Well, we learned yesterday that Gaisuko is selling bulk sugar for half the cost of production. Yep. Basically, they're giving away sugar. Basically, Guyanese are subsidizing, right? The government giving away sugar for free, basically. The headline read out of Kaiju News, I think it was, that Gaisuko sells bulk sugar for half the cost of production, ladies and gentlemen. So they're giving away sugar, folks. Orintia Gano, who's joining us from London, you could send for some free Demerara Gold and Carol Jacobs and all the other folks, because that's what the government is doing. For all intents and purposes, they are giving away giving away our our sugar. Let's turn our attention now to some health matters, some health concerns, some health matters, folks. And there was protests today in Region 5. There's not a day goes by where there isn't protest under this fraudulent illegal administration. Not a day goes by. And this has particularly to do with a young woman that was um, a young woman who was killed untimely at the New Amsterdam Hospital while giving birth. And I want to share some more information. This protest took place at Williamsburg, ladies and gentlemen, and it pertained to the death of the young mother, Vanessa Sahadio, who lost her life at the New Amsterdam Hospital. Well, not at the New Amsterdam Hospital, to be clear. She developed complications. 31-year-old Sahadio died at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation after she was rushed there from the New Amsterdam Hospital. And this was following complications rather during delivery at the New Amsterdam Regional Hospital, where she lost her fourth child. A postmortem said the mother had died from hypovolemic shock, which is caused by severe fluid loss. A postmortem said it is also listed as abdominal and pelvic hemorrhage, acute lung distress, brain edema, which is a buildup of fluid around the brain, along with cerebrum uh, herniation. Is that the term? Since then, ladies and gentlemen, rather, a doctor and two nurses were sent home, and the family wants justice. They do not feel as though they have gotten justice in this matter, and that is what they're asking for this loss of life. This young mother, 31 years old, Vanessa Sahadio. And so again, they are calling for justice. They are calling for justice. And we're going to be bringing you more information on that, ladies and gentlemen, as we have it. And again, as I said, not a day goes by under this fraudulent, illegal, installed administration when there is not a protest activity asking for justice for one reason or the other. And today, this was at Williamsburg in Region 5, in Region 6, rather, folks. And again, we're going to be bringing you details as as these protests either escalate, or the latest details as concerns this family asking for justice. And it's quite strange that unless you don't go and protest, unless you don't go on the streets and raise your voice in this way, little is ever had, because you have a government that only understands sometimes brute force and ignorance. That is the PPP that we're dealing with, the fraudulent, installed PPP that we are dealing with, folks. We turn our attention now to some law and order issue. We turn our attention to some law and order issues. And guys, as you're on, we ask you to share this live stream, tag a friend of me, Marlon King and Loetta, Marcus and Rennie, Mackenzie Talbot, Shalon Hilliman, Jamal Aziz, all of you guys. Give us a share this evening. Those of you who are joining us on Twitter, on YouTube, we love having you guys with us. And thanks for joining. Again, we turn our attention to law and order. And as we've been following this story of the shootout on the East Coast quite recently at Better Hope concerning these prisoners who had escaped from Mazaruni prison, Imran Ramsewak and Ryan Jones lost their lives at the hands of the police. The police said that they received word that they were hiding out in the Better Hope backlands there, and as they proceeded to a shack, they received gunfire from these two gentlemen and returned same, killing Imran Ramsewak and Ryan Jones. The young woman who was also killed was unidentified up until today. She was unidentified up until today, and we learned that she is Savita Debbie uh, Rajkumar. She's known as Debbie, but her name is Savita Rajkumar, and she was the 49-year-old woman who lost her life there, also at the hands of the police in Better Hope South, squatting down where she lived. And that is the information we have. And this what they were doing with her, or she with them, remains a mystery to us. But again, as we get additional information, we are going to share with you guys. But we wanted you to know that as an update, the young woman has been identified as, again, 49-year-old Savita Debbie Rajkumar. Sumitra Debbie Rajkumar and the two men who lost their lives, who were the escapees from Mazaruni prison. Um, yeah, we had Imran Ramsewa and Mr. Jones, Mr. Ryan Jones. And folks, just yesterday we were telling you of the other escapee from the prison who said that he paid 5,000 US to be released. So he doesn't want to be called an escapee. So again, we're going to be giving you additional information as these stories develop. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to turn your attention to COVID. Of course, every night we encourage you guys to social distance, to wear your mask, to sanitize, and when you're in groups, it should not be more than groups of 10, according to the regulations issued by the government from month to month. As you should know by now, cafes, eating houses can now seat about 40% of their larger capacity. And again, it means that all COVID measures are still in place concerning social distancing and otherwise. Today, we want to point out that there was a meeting in region number 7 where we saw the Minister of Local Government meeting with residents rather of that point, right? And we see a cluster of residents there. I mean, is it so important to go out to meet a minister? Is it worth your lives? I think just today, two additional citizens, Guyanese, right here at home in Guyana, lost their lives to COVID-19, if information coming to us is correct. And so, this is totally, totally, totally irresponsible of the minister to have residents meeting like this. And to those residents, you guys have to take your health into your own hands, because if you guys are not here, then how are you going to enjoy whatever it is that is being offered? And I think the reason why they were meeting is to talk about the CDC, the council, development council that overlooks the area, like an NDC. I mean, was that worth it? Was that worth it? And we are seeing an upsurge in COVID-19, an upsurge in COVID-19. And just last night we were talking about Sabuk News, coming down very hard on the president for not leading where it concerns COVID-19. And you had Minister of Local Government, fraudulent, illegal, and installed as he is, reaching with residents in this way. And not to be outdone, there was a meeting in Letem in the Rupununi with the Rupununi Chamber of Commerce by Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, another fraudulent one, another fraudulent, illegal installed minister. And this was a member of the chamber during that meeting. And we received no information that he was reprimanded by the minister for taking his mask off. Again, this is not a government that is leading by example by any means. But then just a couple of weeks ago, we saw the catfish at Everest Ground as part of an activity that he is the chief patron. And reports said he reprimanded them, and instead of having everybody leave and he is the last man out, he reprimanded them and he left. He left and proceedings went on. So how could we expect perhaps anything better from the Rupununi Chamber of Commerce, or even Mustafa, or local government fellow, Dharmlal, Nigel Dharmlal, these fraudulent, illegal installed folks, not leading by example. They aren't prepared to lead. Right? They don't understand what leadership is. Leadership is a perspective. Is a perspective that you hold on how you should operate, how you should treat people, how you should empower people. And they are not leading. And the evidence is all too clear. Ladies and gentlemen, it is all too clear. Let us turn our attention now to the National Assembly. As you know, folks, every day here is bacchanal. Every day here is bacchanal, bacchanal, bacchanal. We turn our attention now to the National Assembly as you share the live stream, folks. And the information coming out of the recent a recent event, if you want to call it that, the assault on Tabitha Sarabo Haley by the infamous Kwame McCoy, who has so many negatives, so many asterisks against his name. One wonders how, in God's name, any right-thinking government could appoint Kwame McCoy as a minister, a junior or senior. What right-thinking government? Nonetheless, the report received from the police suggests that, um, I think we're picking this up from iNews, another fraudulent outfit, suggests that the police saw no evidence of physical assault. That is what the report says. There was no evidence of physical assault. And let me quote two paragraphs from the article, which says that in its report to the Speaker of the National Assembly, the police said there is evidence to indicate that the parties indeed had an exchange of words. Evidence indicate that the parties, this is MP Tabitha Sarabo Haley and Mr. McCoy, did have an exchange of words, but there is nothing to suggest any physical assault took place. This is according to the police. What is more interesting is what the speaker, according to the article, had to say. The speaker said in this article that he will be guided. He will be guided by the police report, which says there was nothing to suggest there was any assault. Interestingly enough, just a couple weeks ago, if not days ago, this was on March 11th, a publication out of Ghana Times, said that the DPP said the speaker must probe the assault in Parliament using the requisite standing orders, etc. The speaker must probe, not the police. The speaker must probe. And so it is interesting that the speaker is now saying that he is relying on the police report, that there was nothing to suggest that there was any nothing to suggest that there was any assault, that there was there was an altercation, a verbal altercation, but again, nothing to suggest that there was any wrongdoing on the part of Mr. McCoy where assault is concerned. And while we are at the National Assembly, another quote unquote report was received just today, and this is as it concerns the Public Accounts Committee. This is as it concerns the Public Accounts Committee. I told you every day in Parliament is Bacchanal. Every day in Parliament is Bacchanal, right? And so this is what we're following. The legal advice that was sought by the clerk of the National Assembly, the legal advice that was sought for by the clerk of the National Assembly, was received and was disseminated to, I think, the opposition chief whip, the government chief's whip, and the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, which suggests, in part, I want to just read a paragraph or two for you from that legal advice. It says that to avoid any future absurdity and confusion, it would be prudent for Parliament to amend its standing orders to provide for the resignation of the chairperson and the election of a replacement in accordance to what is stipulated therein. Again, there's a lot of hypocrisy that one sees when this fraudulent administration talks about its concerns about allegations that are leveled against the current Public Accounts Committee chairman, Mr. David Patterson, when Irfan Ali, catfish Irfan Ali, sat there for perhaps 5 years as the very chairman of the Public Accounts Committee with 19 fraud charges against his name. 19 fraud charges, ladies and gentlemen. 19. Not 9. Not 1, not 2. 19. Right? And were these fraud charges seen the light of day by a court? Were they? No. No. When Irfan Ali became the fraudulent head of state that he is, one of his goons moved to the court to say that he is now head of state, and so there can be no litigation against him. So they hide behind the shroud, right? They hide behind the shroud of presidential immunity, right? He and the other catfish one, they hide behind those shrouds and cloak of immunity, having done their skullduggery, folks. That is what is happening. That is what is happening. I have one of my guests here, Mr. Ganesh Mai Paul, who is joining me this evening, and I want to welcome Ganesh, Member of Parliament, the Honorable. Mai Paul, good evening to you, sir, and welcome.
Hi, good evening, Sharad. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me as usual.
Ganesh, I don't want to waste any time at all. We have been talking about what has been happening on the Public Accounts Committee as it relates to this a piece of legal advice that was received today and what it suggests. I have my own issues with it, with the person offering it, talking about absurdities and confusion. I don't understand what he means by that, but nonetheless, what is your take on what was said, if you've had a chance to read it?
All right. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Let me say, first of all, that I don't know the individual that offered the advice. And I read his guidance that he provided to the clerk of the National Assembly. And I am baffled by the advice that he offered because I think, in my view, it is somewhat contradictory. Um, First of all, Standing Order 95.1 is explicit in its pronouncement, whereas it says that except as otherwise provided for, the Standing Order 95 will be applicable to all standing committee and all select committees. The thing is, Standing Order 82 is explicit towards the Public Accounts Committee. And given that Standing Order 82 speaks to the Public Accounts Committee, then you cannot attract any other standing order in the business of the Public Accounts Committee, at least not Standing Order 95. That is my understanding, and that is how I see it in terms of the guidance that is supposed to be provided. So I found the advice a little strange, and I believe it warrants for more advice on the matter because I don't
Because
believe it is.
in fact, this is an opinion. This is not the law. This is somebody looking at the law and interpreting what it says or
Yes,
what it
yes.
purports
Um,
to say.
and not to discredit the gentleman in any way, I think he was asked and he provided his interpretation, he provided his opinion. His opinion should be respected by the fact that it was given, but I don't believe it is sound guidance because, in my view, his advice was not it was not uniform, as in what was
Yeah,
stated in his paragraph 1, paragraph 2 does not
yeah,
synchronize with what is stated in its other paragraphs. I
yeah.
found it to be very contradictory, and I think it requires greater advice. And perhaps we should seek a couple more advices before we make any pronouncement on that advice or on the situation at hand. I believe we owe it, in order to get it correctly, some more advice so that
Mhm.
we can make a sound decision on the matter going forward. But to put that aside, I believe this matter can be easily dealt with, and that is to simply remove that motion that is before the Public Accounts
Yeah,
Committee. You are
because
asking
that
committee
is what is wasting the committee's time and not the chairman.
exactly. And you are asking the committee to remove the chairman because the People's Progressive Party lost confidence in the chairman. Why is it that you lost the confidence? You cannot provide that guidance to the committee. You have not said
Yeah,
anything as to the
nebulous.
reason why you are
Here's hollow.
requesting
Yeah,
his removal. And
yeah,
it is necessary for me to reiterate that the previous chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, who now sits in the highest office of our land, had
yeah.
19 fraud charges to his name when he
Correct.
was chairing the Public
Yeah,
Accounts Committee.
Fish
Mr.
Ali. Yeah,
Patterson has to be Mr. Patterson has to be given the chance to defend himself in the courts. Mr. Patterson has to be allowed the course of natural
Yeah.
justice. The
They don't like
Constitution,
courts.
Article
They are
38,
judge, jury, and executioners. Yeah.
and the Constitution, Article 38G3, must be respected. And that is, you cannot put sanctions on anyone without due process.
Yeah.
And that is simply what we on the side of the opposition in the Public Accounts Committee is saying. You cannot want to remove the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee and you're not providing him with due process.
Yeah.
He needs
Yeah.
to be given a fair hearing and he needs to defend his good name. A
Yeah.
man is innocent until proven otherwise. And
They
I
and they
believe that
believe
the
the
country,
catfish PPP believes the otherwise, Ganesh. You are guilty until proven innocent.
and that is why, Mr. Duncan, we have to be careful with the precedents that we're setting. We cannot set a precedence where you can willy nilly bring a motion of no confidence against a member because you simply believe that person is not fit to hold that office. But you see, the picture is bigger than that, Sherrod. The People's
Yeah.
Progressive Party knows that we had a plan and that plan is still in play. And that is for us to complete the Auditor General's report of 2016. And we also said in the committee that we are going to merge 2018 and
Mhm.
2017 and 2018 together. And when we merge those 2 years together, we are likely to complete the Auditor General's report examination faster, which will take us to 2019. And the possibility exists that we will very well be merging 2016, 2017, 18, and 19 together so that we can complete the examination of the Auditor General's report faster, and that will take us to 2020 expenditure, which is the expenditure that the PPPC will have to answer for. And
Yeah.
they're running from that because the 2020 expenditure, the government will have to account for the
They don't want the
COVID-19
scrutiny.
distribution.
Yeah. They don't want the
The
scrutiny.
government will have to account for that $25,000 that was given to
Yeah.
every household, well, every quote unquote household.
Yeah.
And then you have also the monies that were given to the Amerindian communities or indigenous peoples communities. All
Millions upon
those monies
millions.
they will
Correct.
have to account for. The
Correct.
PPP is simply running from scrutiny of the
Yeah.
2020 and 2021 spending.
Just
If
like
the
how they're
public
running from the
accounts
scrutiny of
committee,
the elections through petition 99. They're running the same way.
yeah,
Yeah.
if the government is serious about accountability, transparency, and good governance, they will remove that motion that Gail Teixeira just woke up and put to the house, tabled to the house, to the Public Accounts Committee, and they will allow the work of the PAC to go on, and
Yeah. Yeah.
simultaneously
Yeah.
they can file court actions against Mr. Patterson if they so believe they have enough
Yeah.
information to do so, and let the
Correct.
court pronounce. And when the court pronounce on it, and if the court shall find Mr. Patterson to be guilty, then of course your motion will have merit. But you
Yeah. Yeah.
cannot bring a motion and it's premature. It's extremely premature. And
Yeah. Well, Ganesh,
it
yeah.
has more in the matter than the pistol in this case for me.
Yeah, yeah, and I expect it to be premature on a lot of things because Gail elevator meeting the top floor these days. She's getting on in age and so on. I always say, Gail went into the National Assembly when I was 13 years old. She's still there, and I'm there now. So I think a lot of
But
things and mental health is real.
but Mr. Duncan, greater than that is that the physical experience of someone like Gail Teixeira, with someone like yourself or myself who are just newcomers to the National
Young
Assembly
men. Yeah,
is not
young
something
people.
that we were excited, at least I was,
Yeah.
Excited to know that a seasoned parliamentarian like Gail Teixeira is in the House, a
Yeah.
seasoned parliamentarian of her ilk and her standing, who held
You think he could
quite a,
learn
I
from
would
them? Yeah.
say, that we could have learned from her or somewhere
Yeah.
along the line. But I think that Ms. Teixeira is bluffing her way in the National Assembly. I
Oh
have
yeah.
seen
So
how
yeah.
she operates, and I believe that she is not. They say you can be there for so long, but it's how much you learned whilst being there,
Effectiveness. Correct.
and your
Correct.
effectiveness and efficiency. And I don't think she has
Correct.
that. I think she is a classy bluff. I think she talks her way out of situation. I think she has a sweet tongue, but
A
she
bluff and
has
a
no
bully.
merit in her. She has no merit in her dealings. She has no merit in her pronouncement, and I have found that out on many occasions. And I think a number of our other MPs, even MPs on their side of the house, would agree with me that Mr. Shearer bluffs her way throughout the National
Yeah.
Assembly, at least
A
up
big bluff
until
and a
now.
bully.
That is my
Yeah.
conclusion.
Ganesh, before we move on, and as the folks share the live stream, the hundreds of you who are watching, give us a share this evening so the other persons can join in the discussion. On the very issue of this legal opinion that was received, part of it seemed absurd to me and would lead to more confusion because this lawyer, as you said, Mr. Kevon Best, who I don't know and I have nothing against him personally, suggests that a government member can chair the committee to scrutinize government accounts.
And like that's what I said in his advice. The paragraphs in the early stage of his advice does not agree with the paragraphs in his latter stage of the advice. There are
Yeah,
paragraphs that contradict each other in my view, and I find that particular guidance to be absurd because the spirit and the nature of the Public
yeah,
Accounts Committee and the purpose of the Public Accounts Committee is for the opposition to examine government's spending, government's actions when it comes to the public purse. So, how can you propose that the framers of the standing order had an intention of also allowing a member from the government side to chair the Public Accounts Committee when the
it's
Public
maddening.
Accounts
Yeah,
Committee is mandated to oversee the government's
yeah,
actions as it relates to the
yeah,
government finances.
yeah,
And the finances are the people's finances. So the
yeah,
opposition, which in this case I'll use the word with the eagle eyes, they are the ones that have to see and bring forth and
yeah,
question and
yeah.
require information
Government
pertaining
can't
to
question government, right?
it's
The
an
Bible says
absurdity.
Satan can't drive out
It's
Satan.
an absurdity. It's an absurdity. And
Yeah,
you cannot especially with a country like Guyana, we have almost 50% of our people sitting in the opposition and the other
yeah,
50 in government. How can you have a situation where the opposition is deprived that
yeah,
opportunity to
yeah.
question government's spending?
Because the people
This is
is
not
craving, they want everything.
Barbados when you had, I think, one or no member of the opposition sitting in the
Yeah,
National Assembly. Of
yeah.
course, if it's a situation like that, then you will have to have your Public Accounts Committee functioning. And because there is no opposition, you will require the chairman to come from the government side.
No,
But
but
here
even in
you have an
Barbados case, they
opposition
appointed
that is almost
MP.
equal. You have
Yeah,
an opposition that is almost equal to the government. And you want to
correct.
tell me that the opposition, you're going to decide on the opposition and who the
It's because
opposition
they're
should put as
fraudulent.
the chairman?
That's why they're operating so.
It's absurdity in its entirety.
Yeah. Ganesh, I know we're moving on to a local government issue, and I have the region 10 chairman with us this evening, Mr. Deron Adams. I want to invite him to the program because he might be able to comment on some of the other issues. And he got some issues at his end, Ganesh, that he is dealing with and at the forefront of. These nurses, and more in particular, Mr. Rudy Small at the hospital there in Linden, doing some big things. Later on, we learned that he would have fired the St. John's ambulance brigade workers at the hospital there, forester security service, double team taxi service, Corbett Benjamin's work that he was doing there with the vehicles there at the hospital. He severed all of these contracts. So he's on a rampage in Linden, and scores of jobs are being lost as a result. Deron, tell us about that, and then Ganesh, you can follow that. Deron, you want to take off your mic for me? Or I can do it.
Yes, thank you for having me, Ganesh. Good night. Sherrod, almost 1 month after we would have been expressing the resolve of the Council 1, the people of Region 10 2, standing in solidarity with the nurses, staff, the union of the Linden Hospital Complex, this government and the administration of the day sees it fit to allow one man to stand between peace and the efficient and operation, I should say, of the health facility here in Region 10. And we're saddened by that. You're seeing new reports now emerging of all of the people who have been victim of this guy's and the agenda that he came here to the region with. And so clearly we are seeing that it's a return of the PPP to its old policy of starving the APNU AFC stronghold of resources, of discriminating against communities here and the people who do not support them. From a man like Rudy Small, who has said disparaging things against nurses, have insulted professionals, have assaulted the police. His driver has assaulted the police and nurses, damaged phones. What could possibly cause this administration to issue a dismissal letter to Mr. Small and rescind it 24 hours after? This fact, despite hearing of all that has been done, right? Despite hearing of all that has been done, we have seen 54 million being removed from the region by the firing of the ambulance brigade nurses. You've seen the security firm that was here for more than 2 decades, the Forester Security Service being terminated. These are all jobs being lost. The taxi service that was assisting and transporting staff and meals to the COVID-19 isolation facility we would have sent home and discontinued the service there, as you would have just mentioned. The mechanic that was on site for some 20 years, all of a sudden, the mechanic is the worst mechanic in the country. But if you check the history of this mechanic, he would have served faithfully. And of course, of the shortages of drugs that we have here in the hospital. Now, I want viewers to know that we will hear of all of the propaganda that drugs would have spoiled and all kind of thing. But in Linden, you can't find a photo or a site where drugs was being burnt. So I don't know whether these drugs
True,
that were
true.
spoiled or expire, what they did with it. But you have an hospital here that doesn't have masks, doesn't have PPE gears, doesn't have cotton wool, doesn't have basic drugs, saline. It's sad what is happening here in the region, and all of this is happening under Rudy Small, who has found the time to ask nurses out on date, and who has found the time to to
Interesting.
collude, yeah, and has been very disrespectful to them by the very comments. But we have an
Yeah.
administration who is bent on I don't know what. But protest action
Maintaining that
continues.
kind of status quo.
Yeah,
They're on,
protest action continues.
yeah. Ganesh, the prime minister was there along with Bishop Van Edgel, and Bishop got a little distracted while he was in Linden. The prime minister said that Rudy Small's statements are irresponsible and insensitive, and as a man, I could not agree with them. But yet, Rudy is still at the hospital there. Is the prime minister an executive rubber stamp?
Man, Sharon, you took it out of my mouth there when you said that he made that statement. And he has always been labeled as an executive rubber stamp because he seems to not. And I would not be amazed if I hear that he's been pulled in for fitness because of that
Mhm.
statement he may have made. Because the PPP, they have a regime where one man controls the narrative and basically dictate what is it that people
Mhm.
should say. So if at any time someone should attempt to go off script, they are likely to be penalized. So nothing to doubt if we hear that he is being penalized. But I want to tell Deron that the struggle continues and he needs to stand strong with his people as he is doing. And I will advise that I believe at the level of the RDC Council, no confidence motion should be moved against the individual, the CEO, Mr. Small, because he is in your region. And if in your region that is the kind of behavior he is going to display, then you, as the elected representative of the people, you have a responsibility to the people because you are
Correct.
elected by the people. And if your representation requires moving a no confidence motion against the CEO, at least for the record, it must show that Linden, Region 10, sent that signal strong to the People's Progressive Party, not only by their civil disobedience, but by virtue of their statutory body that governs the administration of the region. They are also taking the necessary action. And when that no confidence motion is passed, it should be documented and sent officially to the Minister of Health, to the local government minister, also those installed, what I would say fraudulent ministers, because I'm not taking that word out of their designation on the basis that they're sitting on an eggshell, and the votes that have them there are votes that are not credible. And it should also be sent to Mr. Irfan Ali. Let the region send its message far and wide and use the
Correct.
official channels, exhaust those official channels, and continue the public pressure, because as a region, you have a regional government. The regions, every region, they have a regional government which they voted for. Each region voted for their regional government, and their regional government must stand strong and send a signal to central government what is it they will tolerate and what is it
Yeah.
they will not
Yeah.
tolerate.
Yeah. And thereon, lots has been happening with local government. We have been chronicling how the fraudulent Darmla has been operating like a dictator. And there have been some recent some recent events happening. And you can tell us when Ganesh is finished whether you would have heard about anything like this in the last 5 years. So Ganesh, what has happened recently at the local government commission?
Thank you very much, Mr. Duncan. It's not local government commission, it's at the
Right.
Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development.
Right.
Now, I
Yes.
just want
I
your
stand corrected.
viewers to know that I am in receipt of a letter that was written by a staff member of the ministry to the Irfan Ali. And for just to show your viewers, let me show them the evidence. As they can see there, there's a date there. The date there, I trust that they're seeing it. It's 2021, the third month, the 12th day. And it's addressed
Hmm.
to Dr. Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Office of the President. And if you see the subject, it says, for urgent intervention for the well-being of staff at Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And the content is
Read it for
very,
us.
very heavy, so I am going to take the opportunity of reading it so that your viewers can know what is it that is happening at the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. It says, and I quote, Dear Mr. President, greetings to you and your good office. Assalamu alaikum. The ministry has become a dark place under the leadership of the current permanent secretary, Ms. Prema Rupnarain. As a senior staff who has been at the ministry for over 10 years and have worked under previous permanent secretaries, including the Honorable Dharamlal, Colin Crowell, and most recent Emil Magarel, this is the worst I have seen. It is said a stitch in time saves nine. With that in mind, I am writing for urgent intervention in the issues affecting staff at the local government ministry. I am not sure if the subject minister is aware of these issues, but I don't have much confidence in him since we had a previous confrontation. Miss Rupnarain has displayed partiality and reduced the staff to place of insignificance. For the short time Miss Rupnarain took office, the environment is one that has no warmth or camaraderie unless you're politically aligned or connected to the PS herself. Staff only come to work because they have to. She has managed to forge a wedge of divisiveness in the public service environment. Here are just a few of our evils, for want of a better word. One, since Ms. Rupnarain took office, at least four black staff who were on contract have lost their job, and they are not political appointees. Two drivers are awaiting the end of their contract. A typist clerk attached to the registry, who is a single mother of two, and a young black man that was attached to the PS secretariat. Note, this young man went and examined and explained his plight to the PS as a father for three children. She promised him that she will do her best, and her best was not to renew his contract, leaving a wife and three children on the breadline. Two, she has made her secretariat an all Indian. There's a black girl attached to her secretariat. She has ensured that young lady has no place but put her in a corner in the ministry. The seat where that young lady should be sitting is the PS secretariat, is now a seat for her driver or office assistant whenever they are available. Three, the office assistant attached to her secretariat is not allowed to lift things like other office assistants. No one can give her directives except it comes from her office, while the others, who are black young men, are worked like slaves. It's a modern day slave camp at the ministry. Four, she denied that young black girl attached to her secretariat her duty free. Kindly note, Mr. President, that all the present political appointees who came on after the government took office and holds the same position as that young lady were granted duty free at request. This young woman has traveled throughout Guyana working for the ministry, and the PS denied her because she's black and have no affiliation to the PS political party. What a shame. Yet on the month where women are celebrated, she posed gleamingly, challenging the oppression of women of which she's chief. 5. The PS has formulated a social committee to plan activities for the ministry, of which 98% are of East Indian descent and Hindus like her. The DPS is the only black person on board. This same committee, full of Hindus, have to plan for Christian and Muslims events of which none is represented. These evils are not oversights, but clear deliberate oppression and abuse of power. 6. The PS has made it her duty to undermine the authority of a senior admin officer. This woman has many years of service, one of the most competent. When the Assistant Secretary General went on leave and that senior officer was next in line to act in that capacity, the PS placed a young Indian girl with no experience to function in that position. Mr. President, that young lady is a novice, had no idea what to do but the PS quest to oppress another black person. She preferred to work with mediocrity. I don't believe this is not your vision as president to oppress anyone, but you, the people, you placed in critical office is a reflection of your office. When there's an event at the ministry, The PS secretary and her cohorts are paid to provide meals. Like last December, and all of these staff are East Indians. There's a clear disregard for the blacks. Pepper pot was ordered from the PS secretary's mother. Why black staff members are not given the same privilege? Finally, she dismantled the procurement department, took the black procurement manager and placed him under an East Indian young man who is an engineer. The procurement department is now under engineering, and the procurement manager is a rubber stamp. Our Camp Street branch is the dumping ground for staff. Once the management don't want you and you're not on contract, where they dismiss you easily, they post you to Camp Street. The only persons treated with respect at the Camp Street branch are the staff who are politically aligned to the government party. All others are treated as second class citizens. This is modern slavery, and staff go to work because they need a job. I therefore call upon your good office to address these issues speedily. Mr. President, let those drivers retain their jobs. There are Indian drivers older than these two black drivers that are known PPP that are still on the job. Why the black men have to be unemployed and have families? How many more? How many more must carry this load? Please look into the plight of this young black woman. She see so her duty free can be granted. Sir, and that admin officer that is treated with scorn because she normally stands up to injustice and for what is right, let the procurement manager be allowed to function. Let all office assistants be treated equally. Reinstate that single parent black girl from the registry department so she can provide for her children. As these evils continue, many staff come to work in fear, wondering who is next. There are many issues, but as I raise these few, I hope there will be no reason to raise others. Mr. President, when you were sworn in, your mother in her interview said, you will do Guyanese well. You're an honest, fair, and compassionate person. I call upon those qualities inside of you to come to the fore and urgently address Ms. Rupnarayan's despotism at the Ministry of Local Government. I do hope and pray that the staff members whose issues I raised in this letter will not be penalized for my actions. Let me apologize to them in advance should they be made to go through any form of additional punishment added to what they are already enduring. Mr. President, you have already received one letter from senior members of staff. I wish to add mine. Kindly note that this letter will be sent to the print media and or publication because these serious issues of despotic leadership of the PS requires prompt action. Public servants are people too, especially those who are not politically aligned and need their jobs to take care of their families. Mr. President, it is my plea that you don't allow those under your charge to mar your tenure of leadership with brutishness and maltreatment of public servants. You're the father of this nation, and I hope and trust you be a father of all, regardless of race or political affiliation. I beseech to ensure all is treated equally in the public service, for injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. said, evil prevails because good men stay silent. I refuse to remain silent as a senior staff. Though I'm not affected, my conscience won't let me go. This is a cry for help. Help, 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 urgent help. Yours respectfully, concerned senior staff member. CC, Vice President Bar Jagdeo, Honorable Joseph Hamilton, Minister of Labor, Honorable Joseph Harmon, leader of the opposition, editor of Kaichor News and Stabrook News, unquote. That is the letter that was written by a concerned staff at the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development.
It
Never
made my skin
for
crawl.
five
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
for 5 years, the APNU AFC has been in office, and not
yeah,
once a staff had to write such a letter to the
yeah,
president. There are damning allegations here, and it
yeah, yeah.
requires
An
intervention
investigation. Yeah,
and it requires an
yeah.
investigation, and you need to let those staff function in an environment that is conducive.
Thereon, it made my skin crawl.
Wow.
It made my skin crawl. We're almost out of time.
Yeah, I just want to say this quickly before we wrap up
Go right ahead,
that
Theron.
over the in 20 from 2015 to 2020 through social cohesion the coalition led by President David Granger has taught us that all six races can work together. You would have united us. And Guyanese youth to understand now that under PPP regime, that if this nation is not well, you and I, we can't be made whole. If the system is broken, from that letter that was just read, we can't, we're going backwards. The RDC, the MNTC, all of these organizations are on the trip. The autonomy that we're accustomed to, that have empowered us over the past 5 years has been taken away. And so that is no longer the order of the day, right? Initiatives that we would have proposed are being shut down, taken out. We're heading into a dictatorship, and it's sad. I'm saddened by that letter, indeed.
I was saying that my skin crawl hearing Ganesh read it. Folks, thanks for joining. Ganesh Mahipal, Member of Parliament, the Honorable, and we also had with us Darren Adams, the Region 10 Chairman. Thanks, guys, for joining us and bringing the things that
Sherrod,
you brought
before you
to light to the
close,
people. Go right ahead,
before
MB.
you close, I think the time has come for you to consider expanding your 1 hour. So I'm just putting that to you and your viewership.
Noted, sir.
Thank
Noted.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Folks, there
Thank
you
you.
have it. As we go, we encourage you guys to continue to social distance, continue to wear your mask. Again, we say when you're in groups of 10, you should not, you should still be social distancing. And we understand that this government don't have you and I at heart. So we got to take matters into our own hands. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining the program this evening, and do stay safe. See you tomorrow. Mark is coming up on social media. Mark Benchcup's program, Benchcup Radio, Straight Up with Mark Benchcup. And we commend that program to you as you go this evening. Thanks for joining again. Yep. Yep. Thanks for joining, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining, guys. Again, do stay safe. See you guys tomorrow evening. Stay safe.